All right, Ned CBD, you heard me talk about it for quite a while now. It's a full spectrum hemp. It contains all the cannabinoids, not just CBD. And anyone you look for should contain all spectrum cannabinoids. And what this is a full spectrum cannabinoid. CBD has a wide range of benefits, and that's what's happening. These different cannabinoids are helping our biological system in different ways. For me, what I found is that their night formula has been most helpful in my sleep protocol because it not only has the hemp CBD, but it also has the full spectrum plus different herbs to help utilize and initiate sleep. So I use the night formula, and it's been part of my protocol to help me get to sleep. What I notice is that my sleep has been deeper, more restorative, more rejuvenative, and I'm getting the best sleep scores that I've ever had. So as a give back to the Heal Thyself listener, you're going to receive 15% off of your first purchase and 20% off of your first membership purchase. The great thing about memberships is that they have perks. You're going to get 15% off of every single purchase. Go to helloned.com/Dr. G and enter the code DRG at checkout. That's HELLONED.com/DRG, and you're going to get 15% off of your first one-time order and 20% off of your first subscription order, plus free shipping. All right, Aura Organics, what a company. You heard me talk about this for quite a while, and it's because they've shown up every single time over and over and over. This is a plant-based organic nutrition company, and it offers a variety of products that help assist in healthy living. What I use as part of my morning smoothie is the organic green powder. It's called Easy Being Green, and you're having 3 servings of your recommended vegetable intake a day. Certified organic, vegan, and it has all of the green and micronutrients that you need. So Aura, their powders have been a go-to staple for my smoothies every morning. I use their green powder, their collagen powder, their gut healing powder, their energy powder. And why? Because I've reached out to them. They're transparent. They show the third-party testing, and they have such high-quality organic products out there. And that's so amazing for me. You can find them at Ulta, Whole Foods, Vitamin Shop. You can also go to www.aura.organic. That's www.ora.organic and use the code Heal Thyself at checkout, and you're going to get 10% off of your next purchase. That's HEALTHYSELF, and that's 10% off for Aura Organic. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Heal Thyself. Thanks for taking the time out of your day and joining the show. Very, very excited to bring this show today. All right, so check this out. This knowledge bomb is going to be so integral to healing and health. And actually, I'm surprised. I look back in my library of knowledge bomb topics, and I'm surprised I didn't talk about it sooner. But to be honest, there's so much information that I want to get out to all of you that I don't know why this took a back seat. But this is so important if you suffer from mood disorders or any health disorders, sleep issues, anything under the sun, ironically. We'll be talking a little bit about what is the 1 and 2 interventions you can do in your day to boost up your overall health. And I'm talking about boost it up after a month. So it's not a secret, but really important. We're going to go into that. And very special guest, Dr. Ashley DeLuna, coming up from San Diego. She's a jack of all trades when it comes to medicine. She's talking about gut health, about brain health, mood health, anxiety, depression, and fertility. She's got it all. Super dynamic speaker and very exciting to listen to. So I can't wait to get her on here. So without further ado, I thank you for taking the time, of course, in your day. But without further ado, let's get to this knowledge bomb. Today, I want to talk to you about a very, very important topic. Actually, 2 really, really important interventions for your overall health. So if you remember a few shows back, I spoke about biological rhythms, right? These are the rhythms that present in our body. In fact, it's basically our whole biology and physiology that's dependent on these very specific rhythms throughout the day. Nothing is fixed, nothing is stagnant as far as our cellular rhythms and our cellular workings from morning to night. Everything fluctuates, everything. And some of these rhythms are 24 hours, some of them are a little bit shorter, some of them are a little bit longer, some of them are for sleep, some of them are for wake, some of them are for hunger. Menstrual cycles are even longer ones, but they're rhythms too. And what's happening is basically we have this master clock in our brain. Think about like Big Ben in the UK, and that's sending out a signal to all of the wristwatches around, and those wristwatches know what time it is and what we got to do. All right, so we put on our hard hat, get into work, and then we know after another signal and another signal and another signal that we know, okay, it's time to get out of work, start relaxing. But I'm going to tell you really, really something important about these interventions that we need to be integrating into our lives to optimize our health because it's free and it's fairly easy if we put our mind to it. So now these rhythms, they're largely signaled by light. This is why I talk about something called the cortisol awakening response, making sure that you're seeing bright light during the day, especially when you're waking up around there, right? And your cortisol is going to be boosting up and really important because it sets the standard for the rest of the day. But today, I want to speak to you about the two most important inputs and times in the day that we need to be getting into our lives. So if you suffer with any conditions, diseases, sleep disorders, you have this fundamental important intervention right at your fingertips. And it's a foundational building block. So before you go on medications or you go on supplements or any fancy treatments, the doctor should always be making sure if this fundamental is in place. And today I'm going to talk to you about it. So two essential times of the day for light exposure, especially if you're out of balance physically or mentally or emotionally: sunrise and sunset, right? And this may be a problem for some people. I don't care if you can't wake up early, set your alarm. And I don't care if you have something to do in the evening, change that because you got to put your health first. I want you to think about it. Most of our evolutionary life was on this input every single day. We evolved with our body knowing exactly what to do and how to operate based on these signals. So again, if you're suffering with any conditions, you got to start with the basics. And these basics are meaning the sun that's giving your body those inputs for daily health. And what are the messages? Let's go into them. Sunrise. Well, admittedly, this is one of the most challenging ones for me, right? Because I'm a little bit of a night owl. So getting up that early, especially to see the sunrise, can be a problem sometimes. And particularly where I live up in the mountains. So it takes a while to come down, get to the beach and see the sunrise, or get to a place where I can see the horizon. But I'll be moving back down to the beach, so it's going to be an everyday occurrence. But you don't need to live at the beach. Hell, you don't even need to see the full sunrise on the horizon. All you need is that spectrum of colors. It's being given off to you. And it varies depending on where the sun is on the horizon, but you really want to make sure you're getting out there. Check your time and see sunrise tomorrow, and you know it's at, let's say, 6:05 a.m. Get out there by 5:55, right? 10 minutes early so you can see that whole process happen. A foundation to any health condition is getting enough light at the right times of day. If you have issues sleeping, or depression, or anxiety, or your brain's not sharp as it usually is, exposure to sunrise and sunset should be the first interventions that your doctor's giving you, or at the very least, that to complement those treatments. So we're talking about evolutionary biology. Our bodies not only benefit from these signals, but they expect them daily. So a new study that was published in the Current Biology magazine earlier this year, it was called Let There Be Circadian Light. And they saw that the wavelengths of light at sunrise and sunset make the biggest impact on our brain when it comes to mood, but also not only that, cognition, alertness, and memory. The cells in your retina are responding to these colors, and the signal's being sent straight right to the SCN of the brain, and that's getting all the gears going in your body. In reference to mood, guess what neurotransmitter is being released during sunrise? Serotonin. That's the same feel-good neurotransmitters that is deficient in people with depression, which is partially the cause, but not all of it. When your body's flooded with this during sunrise, this neurotransmitter that is salvaged by SSRIs like Lexapro and Prozac, well, that's retraining your body, right, to start seeing the sunset, and then you're releasing these daily, over and over and over, and your body's becoming used to this serotonin flood every morning. And again, if you're being prescribed these medications, but not the wavelengths of sunrise or sunset, then your doctor's missing the whole point of healing. But don't take my word for it. Go outside, starting today, every single day for the next 30 days. See the sunrise and see the sunset. And write it down, how your mood changes otherwise. Go back to your doctor after 30 days and reassess where you are with your medication. Because it could be that it's lowered or you're off of it. I'm not making any guarantees, but it's such an important intervention to make. Now check this out. Here's one of the craziest things. Did you know that if you see the sun rise, it can help dictate your sleep, the quality of your sleep, 15 to 16 hours later? Why? Well, serotonin is needed to produce melatonin. This happens in your pineal gland. So when you watch the sun rise, what you're doing is you're setting off that serotonin every single day. Your body's getting used to releasing it in the morning. That's setting you up for nighttime melatonin release. You see the sunset, you get a flood of melatonin. You're setting yourself up for success in a nice sleep-wake cycle, which is integral to your overall health. And then another plus is that when you see that sunset, your cortisol is starting to trend down. It's been trending down throughout the day, but it's going to hit its lowest point. And when it's hit its lowest point, melatonin is starting to reach its highest point, and then you're putting yourself in a really relaxed state. Your body's saying, I'm tired. Get me to sleep. Because mind you, melatonin is not just a sleepy hormone. It's essential for antioxidant, reducing oxidation and inflammation in the body. It's also an anti-cancer. It also stimulates the immune system. Proper melatonin production at night is dependent on how much serotonin you're producing in the day, plus dietary interventions, but how much serotonin you're producing in a day, that's setting you up for optimizing melatonin. And remember, not just for sleep, but all of those other beneficiary effects in the body. So you see, and then when you wake up, rejuvenated, restored, you're able to wake up early in the morning, feeling good, and then you see that sunset again. Two important interventions. You don't want to wear glasses or contacts when you're seeing the sunrise or sunset. So I wear both glasses and contacts. And what I do is, if I do see the sunrise, I see the sunset more. But when I do see the sunrise or sunset, I'll take off my glasses. I need to drive there, so I need my glasses. And then I'll see it. I'll let it hit my naked eye, and then I'll put it back on. But really, if you're going therapeutically to see the sunrise or sunset or sun exposure, it's best if you don't wear your glasses or contacts. Matt Maruca was on the show last summer, and he spoke about how contacts are like plastic bags over the eye, and they're blocking the full wavelengths of light that get in there that they're benefiting you. So also keep in mind, as you start adding this practice, very important, integral practice, foundational practice to your health, you got to remember, what are the things that disrupt it? Blue light, bright light at night. We talk about this is why I talk about blue blockers. The one I use is Raw Optics. I have no affiliation, but Dr. Matt Maruca came on the show. He showed us how well they work. Blue Blocks is another really good blue blocking brand, but both of those work really well. And late night eating is going to affect it. Jet lag is going to affect it. Caffeine, working out late at night. These are all going to affect those hormonal signals at night. So remember, as the light comes, you're waking up, serotonin's coming up, hitting that midday, right? That's when your hunger's going, ooh, we got to eat. Get your food in during the day. You don't want to raise that insulin late at night because it's telling your body something else. You want to optimize your life rhythms with the way that the day rhythms go. See if you're in full alignment, how your mood disorders are, how your sleep is, how inflammation is, how any conditions are, right? What we have to keep in mind is that giving supplements for something, giving medication for something, doing fancy treatments for something is not the answer if you don't have the foundational things in here. And this is what I'm trying to bring to light. So, lack of better terms, light, we are adding this for our overall health. I really hope that helped. So easy to do, right? Maybe for some, the waking up and seeing the sunrise is a little more difficult, but make the effort. Really, it's what I find is that as we feel stagnant or resistant, we transmute that energy into creative energy and put that towards something, and it gets easier pretty much for second, third, and by the fourth day, you're already rolling. So if you can get over that first hump and just get out there, put the alarm on, have everything set up in your car. You can have a sweatshirt if it's going to be cold or whatever, or if you walk to the beach, just have everything set up with your alarm, your clothes. You don't have to lag. You come home, and then you can come home to something, right? You can come home to a matcha, or if you drink a coffee and then do your rituals or something like that, where you can add this as part of really important start to the day. Seeing that red light right when it's coming up from the horizon is so important. So you're going to catch it like within 5-10 seconds. You're going to get that really bright light as soon as the sun comes over the horizon. That's setting up your serotonin. Okay, really hope that helped. I'm really excited to get Dr. Ashley DeLuna on. She is, like I said, jack of all trades. We're going to talk about everything. Super dynamic, super engaging, super exciting to be around. So let's get to that interview. All right, everyone, very special guest. Dr. Ashley DeLuna is a fellow naturopathic doctor. She's an expert in hormones, an expert in gut health, an expert in fertility, an expert at all things that have to do with holistic health. And that's how naturopathic doctors do. So I'm always excited to bring some of my straight colleagues on. And Ashley, Dr. Ashley, thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
As I said, it feels so good to have naturopathic doctors on because, we know what the schooling was like. We know what, the organizations and the climate for health is like. We get each other, right? We get the vibe. So you're in San Diego.
Yes.
And you work at a clinic that I visited, but you weren't there. Where were you?
No, where was I then? I was on vacation somewhere.
You went to Tulum.
I was in Tulum. Yes,
Yeah.
I frequent Tulum.
Do you love Tulum?
I love Tulum.
Yeah.
I love the tropics.
Yeah, I was there myself like 2 weeks after you went, and it was like, oh, what a getaway. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I'm just saying, everyone take some time to yourself. That's one thing that I saw that you were doing. But man, like when we were talking before we got on air, you're sort of like a jack of all trades. You don't just really focus on one thing. You just do it all. But that's how we should be, because it's holistically minded. You can't just be like magnifying glass on the gut, right? So I guess to start off, what made you come into this field? What sparked that little passion? Because everyone had a story back in naturopathic school.
Yep.
What was that little ignition in your life that got you here?
I love telling this story just because I am also from New York. So I feel like that shaped a lot of who I am and who I was expected to be in the world of health. Growing up in New York, there was just a very specific way that health was viewed and medicine was viewed. You go to the doctor for this, you get a pill, you're better, you're worse, whatever. And I always knew that I wanted to be a doctor in the healthcare field in some way, shape, or form. And I graduated high school a year early so that I could start to shadow different doctors in the field. And I was able to shadow cardiologists, rheumatologists, surgeons, everything from veterinary medicine. I had the opportunity to shadow with an acupuncturist, but I was like, why would I do that? I have no interest in doing that. I was a very different person back then as well. And it was so interesting because every single practitioner that I shadowed, they didn't feel connected to what they were doing. A lot of their auras were gray. They felt exhausted and really jaded by their line of work. And me just getting ready to start in the world of medicine, that's not what I was expecting. And quite frankly, a lot of them told me, oh, Ashley, you're not built for this. You're not supposed to be this type of practitioner. And that was hard for me to hear, but I still felt a passion inside of me. So around that time, I was looking into colleges, moved from New York to San Diego, which was such a culture shock in that everyone was prioritizing health. They were caring about what they were eating. They were working out. They were getting sunshine. Supplements were a thing. All these different topics that were never on my radar. And while I was still confused as to where I wanted to end up in medicine, I was in the American Medical Student Academy or Association, and a naturopath came in. And within the first 5 minutes of him talking about what he was doing and how he viewed medicine and health, I got full body chills. I had a deep emotional reaction.
Intuition.
Yes, and I was like, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. So I shadowed him, and the rest is history. I just knew.
It's interesting you listen to the intuition. A lot of us actually have those moments, and then logic, right? What we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to do it, overtakes us, and we sort of quiet our soul talking to us and leading us. And, for me, I had something similar. Like, I was in dental school, and I learned about naturopathic medicine in the middle of dental school. And then I was like, whoa, why do I feel like I'm drunk out of nowhere? Like, my whole body had just like this hot chill and hot wave, and I was like, what is going on? And intuition. I got it tattooed on my wrist for that reason. So, all right, so you shadow this doctor, and then you're like, that's it. I'm going to college, and I'm going to be a naturopathic doctor.
Yes.
That's kind of few and far between, because not everyone goes into college knowing what naturopathic medicine is. Usually it's somewhere at the end of college or in the middle, but it's really rare. So once you came out, then did you go straight to the clinic that I went to visit that we'll talk a little bit about later? But or did you go into practice by yourself? What did you do after?
Life was so interesting after graduation. I thought that I was going to move out of the country and work somewhere. A few different really beautiful opportunities came up, but for some reason they never felt right, that intuitive piece. And I remember just sitting with myself wondering why I didn't want to even brag about the opportunities that had fallen into my lap, and it's because I didn't feel aligned with them. So what did feel most in alignment was resting, staying in San Diego, and leaning into the community that I already had. So I ended up opening up my own practice in San Diego, and I had been doing craniosacral and teaching yoga throughout medical school, so I already had this beautiful community of people that knew me for who I was and knew my journey and were ready to be cared for in that way. So I ended up opening my doors month 1 when I got my license. I just rented a cute little room and started seeing people.
Wow, that's so brave, because like for me, it took forever. And then at that, I just started working with someone else it was a colleague of mine in school. And then after that, I just did telemedicine. I never got into that part of it, and I can imagine how stressful it is to open a practice now. But you picked a good place. San Diego is one of my favorite places in the country. Every time I go down there, people have flip-flops on. Doesn't matter if it's December or June or September. I'm like, what is happening here? So you're there, and you open up your clinic. And did you look to specialize in something, or did you start seeing patients coming in and going, whoa, this is like, as we learned in school, but whoa, now I'm seeing manifestations of this every day. This is all connected. The mental health aspect is connected to the gut health, is connected to fertility. Is that, you started seeing that more and more?
I think a little bit of both. You know, similar to you, probably, you start to feel your passions while you're in medical
Mm-hmm.
school and in the clinic and seeing what types of patients you're drawn to and who you get
Yeah.
excited to work with. And for me, that was always, I guess, the more complicated patients. And coming from New York, I loved working with people that had chronic infections or Lyme and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. But do you know who Dr. Karazian is?
Yeah, I follow him.
Yeah, he is a phenomenal practitioner that Bastier didn't even tell us how amazing he was. And
Was he at Bastyr?
he was our neurology, our
I didn't
general
know that.
neurology professor. He did neuroanatomy first year. And instead of even fully going into neuroanatomy, I mean, he did, he taught it to us,
Mm-hmm.
but he would show cases of his patients before and after doing different functional neurological exercises and getting to the root causes of things like anxiety, depression. So he would talk a lot about gut health and kind of connecting all the dots. So that was something that always stood out to me from first year of medical school, that I wanted to work in that way. But then also just in my own healing journey, a lot of gut health, a lot of hormones, detoxing off of birth control. So it was a bit about who I was excited to work with, but a lot of that excitement came from personal experience and what I had gone through.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to get to that whole point, like the birth control and preconception, because I know that there's a lot of big part of this audience is young women ready to have a family or just starting to have a family. So we really want to get in there. But I want to get to the mental health aspect, because this is something that is really huge in the work that I do. I love the mind-body connection. I love trauma. I love trauma releases. What is, and you mentioned anxiety and depression, is that really what you're seeing most people manifesting with? And if so, the conventional perspective on this is, your neurotransmitters are off. Let's give you medication to push the physiology such that you feel better, right? The neurotransmitters are not being broken down and you feel happy all the time. Do you see things differently? Part one. And then also, do you see a deeper picture? Is there something deeper that's happening?
Absolutely. I mean, from a chemical standpoint, of course, if neurotransmitters are out of balance, you will have different manifestations of imbalance, which we put in a box and label as a certain disease. But for me, it's always deeper, and that's why I love our medicine, because for patient A and patient B, the reason why they're anxious or depressed is completely different. And for me, a lot of what I find to be the root cause has to do, of course, with gut health, because gut health influences overall inflammation. Those inflammatory chemicals can then just swim right through the leaky lining of the gut into the systemic circulation to go to the brain. And I remember it was a study that I think I read first year of medical school, where if they injected mice with interleukin 6, which is a major chemical that triggers inflammation in the body, that those mice exemplified symptoms of depression. So that's a lot of what I do, but also in just learning how nutrition plays into all of this, because I'm a yoga instructor, and a huge part of what we believe in is nonviolence, and that translates a lot into diet. So I was a vegan for a really long time, and I work a lot with vegan patients, and I'm a big fan of plant-based eating and eating whole foods and getting nutrient-dense meals. But I even found in my own body, I had never been so depressed or so anxious when I was eating in that way, because I was not getting the essential fatty acids that my brain needed. I wasn't getting enough protein to even make neurotransmitters, enough B6 to make neurotransmitters, B12. So for me, I always look at those underlying causes.
Yeah, it's a great approach. And me and myself being vegan 11 years, you have to be really vigilant and understanding how you're balancing your body and taking tests and seeing like, whoa, I didn't know my B12 was this low. You have to be on it, making sure you're eating the good varieties of food, nutrient dense foods, and then if you need to supplementing. But it's really a great point to bring up, because a lot of us just follow a diet that we read online, and then 3 years later, you're like, oh shoot, I'm really depressed, or I'm super anxious. I find that we do hold on to like these traumatic memories in our body. And you being a yoga instructor, I'm sure that you understand the importance of like mindfulness and flow. And have you ever even actually, when you were doing yoga or with yourself or others, seen that come out through people, like emotional releases through just mindfulness practices?
Absolutely. I see it all the time. I tell my students all the time when I can feel that someone's on the brink of letting something go.
Yeah.
I feel like they need that vulnerability to come into the room. And I say, I have sobbed on my yoga mat so many times. If it's coming up, let it out.
Yeah.
And I, also being a craniosacral therapist, I find that a lot of that gets stuck in the fascial system of the body, because fascia is this connective tissue that binds the entire body together. And for the listeners that aren't aware of it, I like to explain it as if we look up at the night sky, our eyes immediately go to all the stars. And those are like the bones, the muscles, the ligaments, the very dense structures in the body. But the black that is binding everything together, that is fascia. And it's holding our nerves, and it responds and contracts when we feel different emotions. So I find a lot in when you're really deeply holding a pose and breathing into it and bringing blood flow and awareness to these parts of the body that you might have closed off, it gives the body permission to start to release them. And especially in yin yoga, where you're just flopping on into the fascia, some deep emotions can come out if you let them.
Purity coffee. I'm not a big coffee drinker. I'm certainly not. But a few episodes ago, actually a lot of episodes ago, I did a show on coffee. And it's so important because when it comes to coffee, they can be adulterated with pesticides, herbicides, mold, and heavy metals. So important. That's why I did so much research. And what I found over and over and over, not only from speaking to colleagues, but and also my research, was Purity Coffee took number one. Why? It's a brand that's doing everything right. First off, as I said, it's organic. Very, very important, meaning pesticide-free, mold and mycotoxin-free. Now, you may not know, but less than 1% of coffee out there worldwide is considered specialty grade organic. Guess what? Purity is at the top 1%. The beans are handpicked, quality checked at the farm to ensure the highest level of quality and antioxidants. The reason why coffee has beneficial effects in the body is because it's potent antioxidant levels. But you don't want to negate that with crappy quality, with pesticides, herbicides, mycotoxins, and mold. So on average, Purity Coffee is going to get you 65% more antioxidants than any other organic coffee brand on the market, period. So my field, naturopathic functional medicine, any practitioner who's in the know who does drink coffee, you'll see Purity Coffee in their cabinet or their refrigerator. I see it all the time. And why? Because it's one of the top. All right, so if you're a coffee lover and it's part of your ritual every single day, I want you to go check out Purity Coffee. As I mentioned, potent in antioxidants, organic, one of the top 1% of coffees out there, and quality tested for pesticides, herbicides, mold, mycotoxin, all the stuff that you find in conventional coffees, clean, high quality, and one of the best out there, Purity Coffee. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I saw it when I was in school. This myofascial release practitioner came in. One of my classmates was there, and like, okay, it looked like it was semi-intense, but not that intense. But then, like, so the emotional reaction was disproportionate to the massage. I said, "Holy shit, what's going on there? Is she releasing something?" And my friend's like, "Yeah," I was like, and she's like, "Oh my God," she just had a hot flash, and then in that moment, I understood. Maybe, just maybe, a lot of these traumas are held in the fascia, and they need to be released through body work, mindfulness practice, just being mindful to get into the body, and then doing something like yoga. Because I remember one time I was doing yoga, and I was like, I made sure that I was the most present I've ever been, and it was just flowing. I was like, what is happening? Like, this is not, because usually I'll go to yoga, I'll be thinking about the next pose.
For sure.
Right? Or am I holding this pose right? Or actually, how's my pose look compared to everyone else in the room? So I know that you talk about like getting into your own self while you're doing the yoga poses, but anyway, but when it comes to mental health, the nutritional aspect is really big. You mentioned craniosacral. Craniosacral, we've never talked about on the show. I've got it done before, but let's educate the viewers and listeners. What is it, and how beneficial is it?
I love talking about craniosacral. It was something that just fell into my lap in medical school because it wasn't a part of our curriculum, but we had a physical medicine instructor. We had an extra couple hours or something in lab one day, and she had us all try to feel each other's craniosacral rhythms. And it was a sensation that I had never tried to tap into before, and I could not feel it, and it drove me crazy. I'm very competitive, and I wanted to be able to feel it. And
It's a New Yorker right there.
Yeah, I know, true New Yorker. And everyone else in the class who could feel it were just blown away by the subtle sensation, so I became obsessed and took every class that I could outside of my curriculum. And I fell in love with it. And basically, craniosacral is kind of like the intersection between a gentle massage and Reiki. So it's a hands-on treatment where you are tapping into the energetic frequency of the fascia. So the movements are really light rocking movements. And the idea is that the cranium, all the different bones in the cranium have a gentle little rocking motion that they do in response to the movement of craniosacral fluid. And when it creates that cerebrospinal fluid, should I say, everything in the body moves to its wave. And you feel it in the head, but from the head, you can feel, as if you were to throw a pebble into a pond, you can watch the movement as it extends through the body. So you can feel into these long lines of tension and see where things get stuck. And the practitioner then asks, is this physical? Is it mental? Or is it emotional? And you can feel the movements change based on the questions that you ask the body. And I'm actually not doing the release. It's like my hand is a flashlight to tell the person's body to bring more healing energy there and to let it go. So for some people, it is an old injury. For some people, it is a belief pattern that they're holding in their body. For some people, it's emotional trauma, but it's phenomenal for anything from physical injury to mental emotional disturbances. It drops you into the parasympathetic nervous system, so it brings a bunch of beautiful blood flow to your gut. A lot of people, their tummies go crazy during treatment, and that's always a really good sign for me.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
I completely felt like in complete alignment. It was just like, well, my breathing wasn't fully deep. Now it's very deep and I feel great, but also like full alignment. I felt like a lightness to me and clarity. And that was from like 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. And I will say to people, when it comes to energy-based therapies, we have to remember that we are energetic beings, right? We already know this. We die, we're energy, right? And if we understand that very sole principle of life, then it would stand to believe that energy-based healing should be one of the first modalities we do, along with the nutrition, along with the supplements and lifestyle. Energy-based healings should, and this is why I have such respect and reverence for energy healers, real ones, not the ones like, oh yeah, I'll come to your house and do some energy heal. Like, no, real people who know real energy healing. That is like game changing because that can shift the physical. Right? Because I always say physical is like the top of the glacier, and under is like all of these mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever traumas we're holding in. That's the deep stuff. So I love that you do craniosacral with your patients. That's how it should be. Naturopathic doctors, here's his supplement protocol. Here's some nutrition. Get on the table. I'm going to do some crazy energy stuff. Don't ask any questions. You're going to feel better. There you go, right?
Yes, I love it. I'm really grateful that it's a big part of my practice.
So you mentioned the stomach bubbling sometimes. Let's get into gut health right now, right? And it's been since like 5 years since it's been on the forefront of so much, but for a reason, right? Like, when in doubt, start looking at the gut. And have you found what is the biggest block to gut health right now? Is it stress? Is it nutrition? Is it environmental toxins? What the heck is going on? Because I'll tell you right now, when I was practicing, I had people coming in. Every other third or fourth person said, "Oh, I got something going on with my gut." Or someone who didn't come in for gut stuff always mentioned that they had something with their gut. What is going on?
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of all those little blurbs that you just mentioned. I think a huge part that goes into it is that humans are not connected to their food. And as you said, everything is energy. So our food holds a certain vibration and it has energy in it. It has a message that it's telling our body, whether to absorb and to grow and to build, to heal, or to break down, to create this toxic inflammatory cascade, which then can show up as something else. So I think first and foremost, people don't view food as medicine or to have those capabilities. They view food as fuel, and it's just how quickly can I get it in? Ooh, I have to get back to work, so let me just get this down my throat as fast as I can. So one of the first things that I work on with my patients is preparing your food, looking at your food, smelling your food, salivating when you're getting ready to eat, and chewing in a way that your gut doesn't have to try to release a bunch of digestive enzymes to do the job that your teeth could have just done mechanically in your mouth. And then, as you also said, stress is huge because stress shifts the nervous system from the parasympathetic, let's rest, let's digest, let's savor this moment and be present, into, oh, there's a threat, we have to go, go, go. The blood leaves the gut, goes to the muscles, and you don't really stand a chance against digesting at that point.
Mindfulness eating, right? It's so crazy because sometimes I'd be like, do you chew your food? Like before, because they're like, "Doc, I need like the best pancreatic enzyme you got." I'm like, the best pancreatic enzyme is first chewing your food.
Yes.
Right? Start breaking down those carbs. But I think that a lot of us, and I just watched a video this morning, someone was talking about how the precursor to vitality is certainly not running around driving your car, eating, and going to the next meeting, right? Because he said at the very least, it's a friend of mine, Peter, he was on the show, he's talking about at the very least, those nutrients are just transient. You're not fully utilizing all those nutrients if you're in a state where your body's going, oh yes, feed me, I'll break it down, I'll absorb the nutrients. So finding interventions that we can do are really important. How about the gut-brain connection now? Now we talked about mental health and we got a little in the gut. Let's connect them.
Yes.
how deeply connected? You mentioned about the interleukin leaky gut, but let's go more into that. What's going on? How do we improve depression, anxiety in the context of improving the gut?
Yes, I love this topic because I think it gives people a lot of power and it also brings awareness to this fact that the entire body is so intimately connected. But from a physical, neurological standpoint, literally the brain is connected to the gut by cranial nerve 10, the vagus nerve. It is in your brainstem and it swims down the entire body to the terminal colon. And I remember actually dissecting this in medical school and I could not believe how far it went.
Mm-hmm.
And this nerve not only creates this physical connection, but it helps the brain communicate with the gut, but it's a two-way highway. So if the brain is telling the gut to digest and absorb food, that's what's going on. But if the gut is sending signals that it's inflamed or that there is an overgrowth of bacteria or yeast or that there's a food in there that's really irritable, then it will send that message to the brain. And there have been studies that people have traumatic brain injury within, I forget how long, I think it's a few minutes, maybe even seconds. Once the brain barrier opens, the gut barrier opens. So they are interconnected. And whenever any of those barriers open, they're highly selective, intelligent cells. So things get through to secret parts of the body that they shouldn't, and those can lead to all different signs of imbalance and inflammation.
Really powerful. But when you talk about this, because it wasn't until fairly recently where I met someone who had a concussion that very, very quickly led to severe anything she ate, severe bloating. And I was like, wait a minute. And then I looked and I was like, yes, that makes so much sense. How responsive they are. It was pretty mind blowing. But to think that, right? And vagus nerve being so important, vagus nerve health. Can we strengthen our vagus nerves?
Oh, yes. The nerves love to be strengthened.
Yeah.
The brain loves to create new pathways. It wants to do what you're asking it to do. Our bodies want to heal. They want to thrive. So to strengthen the vagus nerve, we're both doing it right now in speaking. So really, you just do different exercises where the vagus nerve touches. And the vagus nerve, one of the main areas that it touches is the inner ear. So one of the breath practices that I do with my patients is something called Bras-Marie, which is humming bee breath, where you take a deep breath in, you close your eyes and plug your ears, and you hum Om to the bottom. And that vibration internally in your body stimulates the vagus nerve. It is so calming. Humming, singing, gargling, chanting. This is always a crowd favorite. Gagging can make you do it. So I usually recommend to my patients when they're brushing their teeth, since, they're already back there anyway, just give yourself a little gag. And the key is that you'll know that you're stimulating the vagus nerve because you'll also tear or salivate because that is the same output of that nerve.
Powerful. Here's what I do in the mornings to do it. I gargle. I use my tongue scraper, and I go all the way back in my throat, and I gag, and then I sing Elvis Presley. I can't help falling in love. I sing that every morning when making my bed. The three things by the time it's like an hour of waking up that I've strengthened my vagus nerve. And then I just talk all day.
I love it. That is phenomenal.
Yeah. And I know my dad listens to the show. He would be the first one to assert that I have been strengthening my vagus nerve since I was like 2 years old. Nonstop, without fail. So if anyone has a strong vagus nerve, they need to dissect me and see where it goes. All right. But here's one of my favorite things. So for the people viewing or listening, they don't know that I went to San Diego and I went to one of the clinics you work in, right? The Tourmaline Clinic.
Yes.
And I'm going to put up some stories about the work they're doing. Really important work because they're helping pregnant women go through the whole process from beginning to end in the most holistically oriented way. And I don't think that a lot of us understand, and I'm not one to say do this with your pregnancy, but there's ways that are much healthier for you and the baby versus traditional routes.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about what's going on over there, but I also want to talk about the passion in that part, preconception. How I did a whole show last week about how miscarriages are increasing, fertility is decreasing, sperm concentration is decreasing, environmental toxins. I want to pick your brain. I want to talk about what is the state of fertility right now? Is it harder to get pregnant that you're seeing with your cases? And what's the difference between now this clinic down there, the Tourmaline Clinic, versus conventional roads?
Yeah. Tourmaline is so special. I'm so grateful that it fell into my lap, and I'll kind of put that to the side for a second just to answer the first question. But I work a lot with women and women who are getting ready to have a baby. They want to do it in maybe the next 6 months to a year, and they're working on other aspects of their health. A lot of these women are coming off of hormonal birth control that they have been on for a really, really long time. And I will say, some women, their bodies are ready, they start cycling, they can get pregnant. A lot of other women that I work with, more than I would like to say, they have trouble in a way that they didn't think that they would have trouble in getting pregnant. And I think that a lot of it comes down to that we are very toxic as species at this point, and our gonadal cells are very sensitive to toxic insult. And these toxins can be anything from pesticides, herbicides, stress, chemicals that we're ingesting or being exposed to in different pharmaceuticals. Also, chronic infections is huge. Heavy metals is huge. So I always find with a woman, when their menstrual cycle is off or their hormones are off, that's a sign to me that their body is trying to bring balance, because the body won't get pregnant if it has something else that's taking up its energy. It's very smart. It wants to make a perfect baby. It wants to save your nutrients for you if you need them. So usually when that is the case, then my little detective hat comes on, which I do anyway with all of my patients. I always try to look at all these root things, but especially with pregnancy, I say, okay, what is going on with your hormones? What is your exposure history? Do you have many chronic infections? What is your diet, your lifestyle like? What are you seeing on a daily basis that could be telling your body it is not safe to make a baby?
Really important thing that you said, how the gonadal cells are super sensitive to these environmental toxins. And if we think about it, and I always talk about it and people are like, whoa, that's a lot of things. But like, if you think about it, it's small shifts, right? Small shifts in the food, right? Or investing in a water filter, which is going to last a long time for you and your family. Thinking about what's the air quality in your home. You talked about heavy metals. Where do they come from? I do a lot of shows on it. This is why, because we know that long term, and there's no way of doing direct correlation. Like, this one chemical is the cause of your fertility. We don't do studies on the synergistic role of all of them. But I'm so happy that you said that that's a major thing that's affecting us. Stress in itself being a toxin.
Yes.
How toxic is stress to fertility?
So, stress, I mean, I don't know if any of the women listening along can think back to a time that they were late and they told themselves that they were pregnant. And it was during a time that they were so stressed. And that is a very intelligent thing. If the body thinks that it is stressed or that it has an imminent danger, it will downregulate reproductive hormones so that you do not have a cycle. So that a lot of times women might be bleeding on their period, but they're not actually ovulating, because ovulation won't happen with excessive stress. So, in that sense, it directly impacts the hormonal cascade that takes to even create a healthy endometrial lining for fertility and implantation to happen. Ovulation can't happen if there's no sign that it's safe to do so. But then also just cortisol in general, all the different things that it's doing to the body in the background gives this underlying vibration. I am not safe.
And the body, and how intelligent the body is. It's basically putting out sensors for what is the environment like. Is there enough food? Is it toxic? Is it safe? Okay, good. Let's put out a good baby. Let's put out a healthy baby. We talked about the women. What about the fellas now?
The
Us
fellas.
men. I think a lot of us overlook, or maybe just underplay and like, okay, just like maybe stop drinking alcohol. How big of a role are men playing now?
Yeah, huge. Men are a huge part of the equation. I think that, I mean, not to throw men under the bus, but I'm a woman and I know that a lot of my friends that are females, they do care a little bit more about what they eat. Maybe it's related to, ego and appearance or whatever, but typically men, I think they just get the easier end of the deal, in which, they can eat whatever and drink and stay up late and they still feel fine. But a woman, she'll eat a cheeseburger and feel crappy the next day and change her mind a little bit. So men, and I remember this in medical school too, looking at sperm under a microscope, and some sperm were beautiful and they were swimming around doing their own thing, but others had two heads, some had two tails, some were swimming in circles. And it's because these cells are so sensitive, and they're almost like little toxic places where they are all pulled, where toxins can be stored in the body. And it directly affects sperm health, sperm motility, how much you're producing. And a lot of this comes down to testosterone levels that are being highly affected by a lot of toxins.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about. 1% a year, testosterone's going down. And then if you think about it, what role is that playing in sperm concentration and firmness, sperm concentration. And then we see that also that's reducing. And Dr. Shanna Swan was saying in her book that's coming out, Countdown, is that by, I think it was 20, 40, or 50, that fertility may be zero.
Wow.
How is that possible? And she was talking about like, this is an emergent situation. We're not talking about like years down the line. Right now is the interventions that need to be made for things like BPA, which I know I've seen it on your page. You talk about PFAS, flame retardants, parabens. These are things that we're exposed to every single day. And I know you do toxin testing, and you'd be hard to come across someone, even a healthy person, who doesn't have that detectable in the body.
No.
It's everywhere. It's just a matter of whose gonadal cells are extra sensitive to them and maybe whose are more resilient. But regardless, major threat, right?
Absolutely. And also coming down to what measures are you taking to detoxify? Because, we are living in an environment that is not necessarily one of health, that's promoting health. So we need to make sure that we're doing the right things for our body to be able to clear, because our bodies are highly intelligent. They can clear these things out. It's just making sure that, if we're filling up a bucket with toxins, that we open it and let it drain.
So how do we open it and let it drain? What are some things we need to be doing here?
First and foremost, I am blown away by how many patients of mine are not having daily bowel movements, and that they think it is normal because it's been something that they've been experiencing their whole lives. And our liver is a collection of different toxins in which they release them into the bile so they can be released into the stool. And first and foremost, I need to get you pooping. If you're not pooping, things are just being reabsorbed and going through. Second is sweating. Our skin is the largest organ in our body, and opening that up, we can sweat out so many toxins, so many heavy metals, things of that nature. Assuring that you have clean water and that you're urinating, even breath. You are detoxifying so much with exhales. So another yoga practice that I love, a pranayama, is Kapalbhati, breath of fire, where you do forceful exhales through the nose. And I remember the first time I did this for a very long time, I was in India in an ashram, and it got to the point that you can actually smell and taste very foul things coming out of your body because you're detoxifying all these different layers of cells.
Whoa. I don't think I've ever done it that long. I just got to the point where I'm like, oh, I'm kind of dizzy now, but you just keep going through it.
Just keep going.
Holy moly.
Lay down if you have to, but yeah, keep going.
Okay, so let's get to the clinic you're working at the Tourmaline Clinic. I just want to put some information to the viewers and listeners. How different the work that's being done there versus just the conventional route as a whole. Well, and what are some things, how can we empower some pregnant women some more? What are some things that we can teach them to better their outcomes?
Yeah. Working at Tourmaline has been such a beautiful opportunity because it's all women-owned and operated. It's all midwives and different practitioners to help with all aspects of pregnancy. For example, I'm there. I'm the naturopath on staff, so I'm doing a lot with lifestyle, making sure hormones are in balance. A lot of women have progesterone deficiencies and whatnot in pregnancy, to do different craniosacral and aspects like that. So just as kind of an overarching theme, or a way that I think a lot of moms would be able to connect about, is in the conventional world, there is a certain timeline and expectations as to how things should go. And if they don't fall into perfect place, then something is wrong. Something is wrong with you. Something's wrong with the baby. You're in danger. We have to intervene. But working at a place like Tourmaline, it is similar and in alignment with naturopathic medicine in that every body is individual. Every pregnancy is individual. Of course, they're making sure that everything is safe. They're doing a lot of different examinations, spending lots of time with their patients, but also listening to the story, listening to what mom is feeling in her body, what she intuitively is feeling that she needs. So much work in the preconception, pregnancy stage, and then postpartum. That care continues, because in the postpartum stage, if you've given birth in a hospital, it's like, okay, baby's out, you're done, see ya. But you just went through one of the most traumatic experiences of your life. And it's so beautiful seeing that community that was in place holding the entire family's hand along the way, it does not end once the baby comes out. That just takes you to the next step. Amazing to have that support. Yeah. I feel like that's how it should be. It should be sort of like a sacred path that you undergo. And you mentioned something really important, intuitive. I think we underplay, I'm talking about we as in the medical community, the conventional medical, right? We underplay the intuition of a mom. Say, no, this is what you need. Yeah.
But mom and her body is very different than other mom next to her and her body, what they need. So the listening part, I think, would humble a lot of practitioners out there. And it's really important that you guys are doing that. and like supporting them, right? Giving them the space to be like, all right, yeah, like you understand this intuitively. What does that mean from our standpoint? Are you doing the toxin testing on a lot of these women coming in?
I usually do it in the preconception period because once baby's in there,
for
there's
sure.
not too much that you can do to detoxify them.
So,
There is
so,
things, but
so let's say I have a partner. I can go to Tourmaline right now and go, we want to have a baby in the next 6 months, and you guys will help.
yeah,
Amazing.
absolutely.
Amazing.
We love to help.
I love that. I love that. Cool. Okay. So, any fun projects you got coming up? Anything that we have to look out for you?
I am working on an online course that will go through all things women health and hormones to prepare people who are looking to have a family in the near future. So we'll get into the preconception care, but also just connecting women to their womb and to their hormone cycles and that intuitive nature of it, because there's so much that we can learn from our bodies. And as a woman, I love that my body cycles with the moon cycles. That is so cool. So it's going to dive all into that. Very excited.
Yeah. So empowering women, preconception.
Yep.
How to optimize our hormones. When is this coming out? I'm excited. I'm
Thank you.
optimizing. Yeah.
Yes, hopefully by summer. Working on it.
Okay. Cool. And where do we find you?
So I am physically located in San Diego, but I do telemedicine, so work with people all over. But you can find me on Instagram at Dr. DeLuna. My website is drdeluna.com.
Love that.
Yeah.
You stay busy.
I stay busy. I mean, I love what I do, so it doesn't feel like work. It feels like fun.
A lot of good energy. Yeah, and that's how you know you're doing your sole purpose, right?
Yes.
Work doesn't seem like anything other than what you're supposed to be doing. And you're doing it. And I thank you for coming and dropping some gems.
Yes.
And we'll keep an eye out for your course. Let me know, and I'll put it out to the community. But thank you for coming in, Doc, and dropping some bombs. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come and drop some bombs.
All right.
It's been a pleasure.
Awesome interview. Dr. Ashley DeLuna really dropping some bombs. As always, it's fun. I love having people who are really excited about their job, and it's really clear that she has that excitement behind the work that she does and is so excited to bring it to all of you. So I hope that helped you. Thank you for rating, reviewing, subscribing. Really, the show is what it is because of all your support, and I realize that, and I bring gratitude to that every single day, every single morning. You're part of my rituals. I love you all. I'll see you next week.